The Manhattan night shimmered like a painting of lights with skyscrapers reflecting off the Hudson River. Gentle jazz music floated from the starlight, an upscale rooftop bar atop the Empire Hotel, where New York's elite gathered. Maya Johnson stepped inside her high heels, tapping against the marble floor. At 30, she was promoted to head of pediatrics at New York Children's Hospital, a milestone she had dreamed of since growing up in the tough Harlem neighborhood. Maya paused in front of the large mirror at the entrance, quickly checking her naturally curly hair and confident smile. She wore a simple black dress striking enough without being showy, perfectly in line with her reserved nature. Tonight was to celebrate the promotion and the long journey from Harlem's noisy streets to the pinnacle of her career. Her mother, Angela, had worked 2 jobs, daytime janitor and nighttime waitress, to put her through Harvard Medical School. "You have to fly high." "Maya," her mother used to say, eyes gleaming with belief. That memory made Maya smile, but it also made her heart ache. Angela had passed away the year Maya graduated, never getting to see her daughter become a doctor. "Stop daydreaming, girl," a voice laughed behind her. Lena Carter, Maya's best friend since high school, and now an OB/GYN, pulled her back to the present. Lena, with neatly braided hair and explosive energy, had always been the one to push Maya out of her comfort zone. Tonight, no patient files, no night shifts, just champagne and joy. "Let's go." They weaved through the crowd, where expensive suits and glittering gowns blended under crystal chandeliers. Maya felt the glances passing over her, but she was used to being among the few black women in spaces like this. In Harlem, she was the pride of the entire neighborhood. Here, she was just another unfamiliar face, though one that carried the glow of confidence and success. Lena ordered 2 glasses of champagne, and they clinked glasses by the railing overlooking the Manhattan skyline. "You did it, Maya," Lena said, her tone sincere. "Head of department at 30. You know your mom is smiling down from heaven, right?" Maya nodded, her throat tightening. She sipped champagne, letting the gentle bubbles soothe her emotions. Tonight, she wanted to live fully, not just for herself, but for the mother who had sacrificed everything. That's when she felt it, a gaze piercing through the crowd. She turned, and her eyes locked with his. He stood by the bar, tall, with tousled light brown hair falling across his forehead and sharp blue eyes like the morning ocean. He wore a tailored gray suit, but his appearance didn't make Maya freeze. It was how he looked at her, as if the entire world faded away, leaving only the 2 of them. He smiled softly, and Maya's heart unexpectedly skipped a beat. "Oh my God, that's Ethan Caldwell," Lena whispered, gripping Maya's hand. "CEO of Caldwell Healthcare, the most powerful man in the medical industry. And he's looking at you." Maya frowned. Ethan Caldwell, who she spent most of her time reading medical journals, not business magazines. To her, the world of billionaires and multi-million-dollar deals was as foreign as another planet. But there was something about Ethan that she couldn't look away from. He wasn't just handsome. He radiated a magnetic mix of power and mystery, like a riddle waiting to be solved. Ethan left the bar and walked toward them with a natural confidence. Lena quickly whispered, "I'm going to grab another drink. Don't do anything foolish, okay?" and disappeared, leaving Maya face to face with the man who seemed to tilt the entire room in his direction. "Good evening," he said, his voice deep and warm, with a gentle southern lilt. "I saw you standing here, and thought if I don't come say hello, I might regret it all night." He extended his hand. "Ethan." "Maya," she replied, shaking his hand. His grip was firm and warm, and the handshake lingered a second longer than usual. "And I bet you're not the kind of man who regrets many things, are you?" He smiled a smile that lit up his whole face. "You'd be surprised." I have plenty of regrets, like never getting to thank my father before he passed. The unexpected confession took Maya aback. She hadn't expected such sincerity from someone who looked like he'd just stepped off the cover of Forbes. My father died of heart disease. Ethan continued, his eyes distant. The public hospital didn't have the equipment to save him. That's why I built Caldwell Healthcare, so no one else would suffer the same loss. He looked at her as if waiting to see how she would respond. Maya felt an uncanny sense of connection. I grew up in Harlem, she said, her voice soft but steady. My mom worked herself to the bone so I could go to medical school. I became a pediatrician because I want the kids there to have a shot, no matter what they're born into. She smiled. Sounds like we're both trying to change the world, each in our way. Ethan tilted his head, his eyes sparkling. Then, why don't we start by changing tonight? A drink, a conversation. What do you say? Maya hesitated. She didn't open up easily to strangers, especially not to someone like Ethan who seemed to come from an entirely different world. But something about him, the honesty in his tone, the curiosity in his eyes, made her want to step forward. She remembered something her mother once said on a tired night in Harlem: live for yourself, just once, Maya. Life won't wait. All right, she said, smiling, but I warn you, I'm not easily impressed. Ethan laughed, leading her to a quiet bar corner where soft lighting and smooth jazz wrapped around them. As they sat down, Manhattan sparkled beneath them like a promise. Maya didn't know that this conversation would change her forever, pulling her into a journey of wonder, challenges, and a love she had never dreamed of. The crystal lights of the starlight twinkled softly, blending with the mellow sounds of a saxophone, wrapping Maya Johnson and Ethan Caldwell in a world of their own. They sat in a balcony corner where the Manhattan skyline stretched like a glittering galaxy. The champagne glasses on the table were half empty, but both seemed to forget the passing of time, immersed in stories that drew them closer. Maya tilted her head, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. So tell me the truth, Ethan. Someone like you, what makes you happy? Not million-dollar deals, not lavish parties. What truly makes you feel alive? She emphasized the last word, her voice holding a touch of challenge and deep sincerity. Ethan looked at her, his deep blue eyes searching for something in her soul. He took a sip of wine, then set the glass down, his fingers tracing the rim lightly. You want the truth? It's the moments I feel like I've made a difference. For example, when I opened a free clinic in the Bronx last year, mothers were holding their children crying because they finally got treatment without worrying about the bill. In those moments, I don't feel like just a CEO. He paused, his voice lowering. I feel like my father's son, the man who believed healthcare was a right, not a privilege. Maya felt her heart tighten. She recalled the days when her mother, Angela, had to wait in line for hours at a public clinic to get medicine for her when she had pneumonia as a child. The Harlem neighborhood, with its honking cars and the smell of bread from the corner bakery, was where she learned that healthcare wasn't something everyone could take for granted. In Harlem, we call that care from the heart, she said, smiling. My mother always said, a good doctor doesn't just heal illness, but also fear. That's why I chose pediatrics, so children wouldn't have to grow up worrying. Ethan leaned in, his eyes lighting up. You know, Maya, you're the first person at a party like this to talk to me about things that matter. Not stocks, not reputation. People. He paused as if weighing something. You make me want to tell you a secret. Maya raised an eyebrow, her tone playful. A secret. Careful. I'm a doctor. I'm good at keeping secrets, but I'm also good at spotting lies. He laughed, the warm sound dissolving the space between them. "All right, Dr. Johnson. My secret is, I hate parties like this. All the fake smiles, the handshakes for gain. If it weren't for an important investor, I'd be home reading or reviewing the design plans for a new hospital project in Chicago." Maya laughed, a sense of ease spreading through her. "So why are you here breaking your rules to talk to me?" Ethan looked directly into her eyes without hesitation. "Because I couldn't look away when I saw you walk in. You're not just beautiful, Maya. You have a light like you carry the world within you, but you're still willing to fight for it." His words made Maya's heart race. She wasn't used to being complimented like this, not the superficial flattery she often heard from other men. Ethan spoke with a sincerity that made her want to believe, even though her rational mind reminded her he was a stranger, someone from a world of luxury she had never touched. They kept talking from grand dreams to the most minor details. Maya shared a story about a young patient, a boy named Jamal, who had drawn her a thank you picture after recovering. Ethan recounted secretly, helping to build a clinic in Haiti, working himself to exhaustion, but feeling more fulfilled than ever. Each story was like an invisible thread pulling them closer, erasing the lines between a Harlem doctor and a Manhattan billionaire. As the clock neared midnight, Ethan stood and held out his hand. "Walk with me. I know a quieter place nearby, and I'm not ready for this night to end." Maya hesitated. She'd always lived by the plan. Every step was carefully calculated. No matter how charming, going off with a man she'd just met went against every principle she held. But then she remembered a night in Harlem when her mother, exhausted from work, still danced to the radio and said, "Sometimes, Maya, you have to let your heart lead. Just once." That memory, along with Ethan's honest gaze, made her nod. "All right," she said, taking his hand. "But if you take me somewhere boring, I'll sue you for wasting a doctor's time." Ethan laughed and led her out of the starlight. They walked along Fifth Avenue, where streetlights mingled with moonlight to create an ethereal glow. Ethan brought her to a small nearby park where rows of oak trees cast shadows, and the sound of flowing water from a small fountain created a serene space in the heart of a noisy city. They sat on a bench, continuing their conversation, but now the distance between them had narrowed physically and emotionally. "Maya," Ethan said, his voice profound. "I don't know what's happening, but it feels like I've known you for a long time, and I don't want tonight to be just a passing memory." She looked into his eyes and felt the sincerity and a trace of pain behind the confident exterior. She thought of his father lost in an under-equipped hospital, and her mother, who sacrificed everything so she could be here tonight. Life, she realized, didn't always need a plan. Sometimes it required a brave moment. "Then don't let it pass," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Take me with you, Ethan. Tonight, let's live." Ethan said nothing, only holding her hand tighter. They left the park and hailed a cab to his penthouse apartment on the Upper East Side. When the elevator doors closed, he pulled her into his arms, and their first kiss ignited like a flame, intense yet gentle, as if both had been waiting their whole lives for this moment. That night, in a high-rise apartment overlooking sparkling Manhattan, they shared moments of passion and their deepest secrets. Ethan spoke of sleepless nights, haunted by the thought that he hadn't done enough to fix the healthcare system. Maya confessed her fear of failure, not living up to her mother's sacrifices. They laughed, they cried, and they found in each other a comfort neither had expected. As dawn broke, Maya lay in Ethan's arms, listening to his heartbeat sync with the city waking below. She didn't know yet that this night would change everything, that a miracle, no 4 miracles, was being planted, ready to turn her life upside down and pull her back to the man sleeping beside her. Dawn crept through the silk curtains, casting a soft golden light over Ethan Caldwell's penthouse. Outside the window, Manhattan awakened to the sound of honking cars and the rush of life, but inside the space remained quiet, as if holding on to the intense moments of the night before. Maya Johnson lay in the large bed, cool luxury linen brushing against her skin. She opened her eyes, feeling the warmth of Ethan's arm still wrapped around her, his steady breathing like a gentle lullaby. She wanted time to stop for a moment, to stay wrapped in this rare feeling of safety and freedom. But then, reality swept in like a cold breeze. Maya gently slipped out of Ethan's embrace, sat up, and looked around the room. The expansive space with abstract paintings on the walls and floor-to-ceiling windows reminded her that she was in a world that did not belong to her. Ethan Caldwell, who made her heart tremble last night, was a powerful CEO running an entire healthcare empire. And she, Maya Johnson, was a pediatrician from Harlem, where big dreams always came hand in hand with relentless struggle. She remembered being a child, her mother Angela, sitting at the tiny kitchen table, counting every penny to pay for her tuition. "You're going to make it, Maya," she had said, her calloused hands gripping hers tightly. "But never forget where you come from. Harlem is your root, your strength." Those words had carried Maya through difficult years, from her Harvard scholarship to becoming head of pediatrics. But they also made her cautious, always putting responsibility above personal desire. Last night, she had let her heart lead. But this morning reason was pulling her back. Maya quietly stepped out of bed and found the black dress she had worn the night before, now neatly folded on an armchair. She slipped it back on, careful not to wake Ethan. He was still sleeping, his face serene, long lashes casting soft shadows on his cheek. Looking at him, Maya felt a pang in her chest. They had shared their most profound truths about his father, who died because of a broken healthcare system, and her mother, who gave everything so she could soar. They had laughed, cried, and found a rare connection neither had experienced before. But was that enough to bring their two worlds together? She entered the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face to clear her swirling thoughts. The reflection in the mirror was still Maya Johnson, but her eyes glimmered with a new light, as if something within had shifted overnight. She remembered what her mother had once said during a cold winter night in Harlem, as they sat by a tiny heater. "Love, Maya, is a gift. But it's also a test. You have to be strong enough to receive it." Was she strong enough to accept Ethan? Or was last night meant to be just a beautiful memory? Returning to the bedroom, Maya looked at Ethan one last time. She thought about leaving a note and a phone number, but stopped. What would she write? "Thank you for a wonderful night." Too cliché. "I think I could fall for you too soon." She didn't want to turn this perfect moment into a vague promise they might be unable to keep. Better, she thought, to leave it whole, as a rare gem in her memory. She stepped out of the penthouse, her high heels tapping gently on the marble floor. The private elevator brought her to the lobby, where the morning light poured in through large glass panes. The cool Manhattan air wrapped around her. As she stepped onto Fifth Avenue, she hailed a cab, her heart heavy, but also light. She had chosen to return to her life the night shifts, the small patients, and her duty to the Harlem community. Ethan, she told herself, would remain just a beautiful dream. Inside the penthouse, Ethan awoke as the sunlight touched his face. He reached out, searching for the warmth of Maya, but found only cool linen. He sat up abruptly, heart pounding as he realized she was gone. "Maya!" He called out, his voice hoarse, but only silence replied. He jumped out of bed, checking the bathroom and the living room. She was nowhere to be found. The apartment, though vast and luxurious, suddenly felt empty. He stood by the window, looking down at the traffic flowing along Fifth Avenue. A yellow taxi sped past, and he wondered if Maya was in it, leaving him without a goodbye. His hands clenched, a surge of regret rising in his chest. Last night, she had broken through the wall he had built around his heart for years. He remembered the days after his father's death, when his mother Eleanor had worked 3 shifts to put him through college. "You must do what's right, Ethan," she told him. "Not just for yourself, but for those with no one to fight for them." With her healing passion and open heart, Maya reminded him why he had started this journey. Ethan turned back toward the bedroom, his eyes landing on the chair where Maya's dress had been. He caught a faint trace of her scent jasmine and an indescribable gentleness. He knew so little about her, her name, profession, and a story from Harlem, but it was enough to make up his mind. "I'll find you, Maya," he whispered, voice full of resolve. He didn't give up easily, not in business or this. He grabbed his phone and called his assistant, Valerie. "Val, I need you to find someone. Her name is Maya Johnson, and she is a pediatrician, possibly in Harlem or Brooklyn. As soon as possible." He didn't care if he sounded desperate. Last night wasn't just a chance encounter. It was a beginning, and he wouldn't let it end like this. In the taxi, Maya stared out the window, the skyscrapers passing by like scenes from a film. She thought about Ethan, his smile, the way he listened to her, like she was the only person in the world. She wondered if she was wrong to leave without a trace. But then she thought of today's schedule, a surgery for a young patient, a hospital board meeting, and a promise she made to Harlem, that she would never forget them. Her life had no room for whimsical dreams, no matter how beautiful. When the taxi stopped in front of the brownstone in Brooklyn, Maya stepped out and took a deep breath. She would keep going just as she always had. But deep in her heart, she knew Ethan had left a mark that would never fade. What she didn't expect was that just weeks later, a discovery would turn all her plans upside down and pull her back to the man she had tried to leave behind in the Manhattan dawn. 8 weeks had passed since that fateful night at the Starlight, but it still felt like she had just left Ethan Caldwell's penthouse in the early morning light to Maya Johnson. Her life had returned to its familiar rhythm. Long shifts at New York Children's Hospital board meetings to discuss the free healthcare program for Harlem's children, and quiet weekend evenings in her Brooklyn brownstone reading books or chatting on the phone with patients' mothers. But lately, her body had been sending strange signals: persistent fatigue, morning nausea, and a deep, inexplicable sense that something was changing. Maya sat in her small office, sunlight streaming through the window onto a desk, cluttered with paperwork and ultrasound images of her young patients. She checked her schedule, a corrective surgery for a young girl that afternoon, and a presentation on childhood diabetes tomorrow. But her mind kept circling back to the symptoms. As a doctor, she couldn't ignore the clear signs, no matter how much her heart wanted to deny them. She thought back to that night with Ethan, the moment they gave in to emotion, and a vague worry crept into her chest. She picked up the phone and called Lena Carter, her best friend and an OB/GYN at the hospital. "Lena, I need you to help me with something," Maya said, her voice low but steady, completely confidential. "I think I might be pregnant." Lena didn't ask questions, just replied instantly. "Meet me in the OB clinic after lunch. Don't worry, I'll handle it." Lena's professionalism always reassured Maya, but her heart was pounding when she hung up the phone. She looked out the window at the busy Brooklyn street where kids played basketball and mothers pushed strollers. Harlem, where she'd grown up, had taught her that motherhood was a sacred but challenging journey. Her mother, Angela, used to tell stories about sleepless nights when Maya was little, worrying about money and the future. "But you're the light of my life," she said, holding her close. Was Maya strong enough to become that light for a child or more? At the OB clinic, Lena had everything ready. The room was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of the ultrasound machine and the gentle glow of its screen. Maya lay on the exam bed, clutching the sheet's edge, trying to maintain the calm of a doctor. Lena, offering a reassuring smile, spread the cold gel across her abdomen. Relax, girl. We'll know soon enough. The ultrasound began, and the faint sound of tiny heartbeats echoed a drumbeat from another world. Maya held her breath, eyes fixed on the screen. Then Lena stopped moving the probe, her eyes widening. Maya, she whispered, her voice tinged with shock and awe. You're not carrying just one. Maya sat up straight, heart pounding. What do you mean? Twins. Lena turned the screen toward her, pointing at the clear images. Not twins. 4. 4 heartbeats, 4 separate sacs. You're carrying quadruplets, Maya. And this is incredibly rare, especially without medical intervention. The world around Maya seemed to stop spinning. She stared at the screen where 4 tiny flickering dots beat each a heartbeat of life. As a doctor, she knew the odds of naturally conceiving quadruplets were almost impossible, 1 in millions. But as a woman, a tidal wave of emotion surged through her: shock, fear, and a strange, unexplainable joy. How is this possible? She whispered, eyes still locked on the screen. She thought of Ethan, the night they shared everything from dreams to pain. He was the father of these children, but she had no way to contact him. She only knew his name, voice, and those deep blue eyes. How could she raise 4 children independently, just as her career was reaching its peak? Lena placed a hand on her shoulder, her voice gentle but firm. Maya, I know you're in shock, but you need to plan. Quad pregnancies are high risk. You'll need rest, special care, and support. Do you want to tell me about the father? Maya shook her head, her throat tightening. She wasn't ready to talk about Ethan, not out of shame, but because that night had felt sacred, a secret she wanted to keep. I'll handle it, she said, though she wasn't sure. But thank you, Lena. I need time to process this. Maya sat in an armchair in her Brooklyn brownstone, holding a cup of hot tea. Outside, the sunset cast a golden hue over the streets, and the sounds of children playing drifted in. She thought of Harlem, where the community was everything. When she won her Harvard scholarship, the neighborhood threw a small party with sweet pastries and tight hugs. Our girl's going to do big things, Mr. Henry, the corner store owner, had said. Now faced with becoming a mother of 4, Maya wondered if that same community would still stand by her or judge her for one impulsive night. She stood up, opened a notebook, and began jotting down notes. As a doctor, she knew what had to be done: find a high-risk pregnancy specialist, adjust her work schedule, and prepare financially. But as a woman, she had never felt more alone. She thought of Ethan, wondering what he was doing, and if he had ever thought of her the way she thought. She wanted to find him, to tell him about the miracles they had created, but she didn't know where to start. She exited the small balcony, gazing at the starry Brooklyn sky. Mama, she whispered, as if Angela could hear her. What do I do now? She remembered something her mother once said when she was nervous before a medical exam. You're stronger than you think, Maya. Whatever comes, you'll find a way through. Those words filled her with new strength. Maya placed a hand on her belly, feeling the life growing inside. We're going to be okay, she said to the unborn children. Even if it's just us, we'll make it. But deep down, Maya didn't know fate had plans. Somewhere across Manhattan, Ethan was pouring every resource into finding her, and an unexpected discovery would soon bring them back together in a way neither of them could have imagined. 10 weeks after that fateful night at the Starlight, Ethan Caldwell stood by his office window on the top floor of Caldwell Tower, gazing down at the glittering Manhattan skyline, bathed in the glow of sunset. With its crowded streets and endless dreams, this city now held a new meaning. It was where he met Maya Johnson, the woman who had stirred his heart in a way he had never known. But she had vanished like a dream dissolving in the dawn, and that emptiness had been eating away at him every day since. Ethan twirled a silver pen, eyes skimming the report on his desk, a preliminary dossier on Maya Johnson, compiled by his private investigation team. Dr. Maya Johnson, 30 years old, head of pediatrics at New York Children's Hospital, raised in Harlem, full scholarship to Harvard. He read silently each detail, carving her image deeper into his mind. But one line stopped him cold. Recently took an unscheduled leave of absence. Reason not disclosed. His heart pounded. Could it be connected to the night they spent together? Could she be pregnant? He recalled the days after his father's death, when his mother Eleanor had held him in their tiny Queens apartment and said, "Live for what matters, Ethan. Don't let what truly matters slip away." With her warm smile and healing passion, Maya was the most meaningful thing he had ever found. He couldn't let her slip through his fingers without trying. He picked up his phone and called Valerie, his longtime assistant. "Val, any updates on Maya Johnson?" "Right now, I need to know where and what she's doing." Valerie's voice, professional but concerned, replied. The detective reported she was seen entering the Caldwell Women's Health Center through the private patient entrance. "We're still verifying, but do you want me to dig deeper?" Ethan held his breath. The Caldwell Women's Health Center, one of his flagship facilities, specialized in high-risk pregnancies. A sudden theory struck him, thrilling and terrifying all at once. "Dig deeper," he said firmly, "but keep it discreet. I don't want her disturbed." He ended the call and turned back toward the Manhattan skyline. "Maya," he whispered, "if you're carrying our child, I will find you. I promise." Meanwhile, in Brooklyn, Maya sat in a small room at the Harlem Community Center, attending a pregnancy support group Lena had recommended. The space was warm and inviting, with colorful paintings on the walls and a soft hint of coffee in the air. Around her were 7 Black women, single mothers, first-time moms, each carrying their own story. Maya was a doctor, but felt like a newcomer in this uncertain world. She looked down at her still flat belly, which now carried 4 lives. As a doctor, she knew the medical implications of a quadruplet pregnancy, the risks of premature birth, preeclampsia, and constant complications. But as a woman, she feared something even greater. How could she raise 4 children alone? How could she remain head of pediatrics, Harlem's pride, when her world was shifting? The group leader, Ruby, a gentle older woman with a kind smile, clapped her hands to get their attention. "All right, sisters, who want to share today. No right or wrong here, only hearts." Maya hesitated, but Ruby's warm gaze encouraged her to raise her hand. "I'm Maya," she began, her voice slightly shaky. I'm pregnant with 4 babies. I'm a doctor, so I know all the medical stuff, but I've never been this scared. I don't know the father, no. I know who he is, but I have no way to contact him. And I'm afraid I'm not strong enough to do this alone." The room went silent. Then Ruby nodded, eyes full of compassion. "Maya, you're a warrior. Harlem taught us that. I raised 3 children alone, and let me tell you this, you're never truly alone. We are here, and those babies chose you as their mother because they knew you were strong enough." The other women nodded. One reached out to hold Maya's hand, and another shared her story. Maya felt a new strength rising within her. She remembered the evenings in Harlem, when neighbors gathered in the courtyard to sing and share food despite hard times. "Community is strength," her mother used to say, and now Maya felt that truth more than ever. Back at home, Maya opened her laptop and began researching everything about quadruplet pregnancies, taking notes with the precision of preparing for surgery. She called Lena and scheduled a consultation with a high-risk OB specialist. But every time she paused, her mind drifted to Ethan. He deserved to know about their children, but how could she find him? All she knew was his name. Ethan Caldwell, a name likely too common in Manhattan to trace. She wondered if he ever thought of her, or if that night had been nothing more than a fleeting moment to him. She stood before the mirror, placing a hand on her belly. "Babies," she whispered. "Mommy will do everything to keep you safe. With or without your father, we'll be a family." But deep down, she couldn't deny a flicker of hope that Ethan would appear, that fate would somehow bring them back together. At Caldwell Tower, Ethan received a new report from the investigators. Ms. Johnson has been confirmed to have regular appointments at the Caldwell Women's Health Center, specializing in high-risk pregnancies, it read. Ethan gripped the paper, heart racing. He imagined Maya with her steady gaze and warm smile, facing a complicated pregnancy alone. He wanted to be there for her to share the burden. Before passing, he recalled something his father once said. "Ethan, a good man doesn't just build. He protects what he loves." Maya and possibly their children were what he wanted to protect now. He stood and called out to Valerie. "Schedule a visit to the Caldwell Women's Health Center. I want to check it myself." And Valerie, "Don't let anyone know." Manhattan glowed against the night sky outside the window, like a promise that he would find Maya. He didn't know that fate would place them face to face again in just a few days, opening a new chapter filled with trials and miracles. The main lobby of the Caldwell Women's Health Center glowed under the light pouring through its tall glass panels as the morning sun reflected off the marble floors. Maya Johnson stepped inside, her hand unconsciously resting on her belly, where 4 tiny lives grew daily. At week 14, her body had begun to change noticeably, and her long coat could no longer fully conceal the new curve. Today was her scheduled checkup with a high-risk pregnancy specialist, and though she was a doctor herself, Maya still felt a trace of anxiety. She knew all too well the risks of a quadruplet pregnancy, preterm birth, preeclampsia, and even the possibility of losing both mother and babies. But she focused on staying calm, just as her mother Angela had taught her. When you're afraid, focus on what you can control. Maya moved through the busy crowd, nurses changing shifts, patients chatting, and families waiting with hope. She stopped in front of the elevator and checked a message from Lena. "You'll be fine. Call me if you need anything." Maya smiled, grateful for a friend who never left her side. Harlem, the place she grew up in, had taught her that community was strength, and Lena was an irreplaceable part of hers. She remembered evenings in the neighborhood, when Angela took her to community meetings where neighbors planned how to improve schools and clinics. "We are stronger together," her mother had said, and now Maya carried that spirit with every step. "Hold the elevator," a deep voice called from behind, startling her. That voice, like a melody from the past, made her heart pound. She turned around and time seemed to freeze. Ethan Caldwell approached, his eyes focused on the tablet in his hand, his tailored gray suit hugging his tall frame. He was just as captivating as the night they first met, but something was different. A tension in his posture, as if he were carrying the world's weight. When he looked up, their eyes met. Ethan stopped the tablet, nearly slipping from his hands. "Maya," he whispered, his voice filled with shock and emotion. His gaze dropped to her belly, where her coat no longer concealed the signs of pregnancy. Realization flickered in his eyes, and Maya felt her breath catch. She wasn't prepared for this moment. She wasn't ready to face the man who had changed her life in one night. "Ethan," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady, though her heart raced. What are you doing here?" The question held a hint of defense, like a doctor trying to regain control. Ethan gave a faint smile, but his eyes never left hers. "I own this place," he said, his voice low but gentle. "But that's not what matters. What matters is you. You're pregnant." The question wasn't one of doubt, but confirmation, as though he'd suspected it all along. Maya nodded her hand, tightening instinctively around her belly. Yes. 4. Quadruplets. She said it quickly, as if saying it out loud would make it more real. She braced for his reaction, shock, panic, maybe even rejection. But Ethan just looked at her, eyes gleaming with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. The elevator dinged, opening into a space, but neither moved. "We need to talk," Ethan said, calm but resolute. "Please, Maya. Just 5 minutes." She hesitated. Part of her wanted to run back to the safety of charts and control. But another part, the one that had once trembled under his touch, wanted to hear him out. She nodded, and Ethan guided her to a quiet corner of the lobby, where velvet chairs overlooked a small garden. They sat across each other, the space between them filled with unspoken questions. Ethan leaned forward, his gaze sincere. "I've been looking for you, Maya, since the morning you left. I couldn't stop thinking about you, about what we shared. And now, 4 children." He shook his head, a stunned yet deeply moved smile forming. "You don't know what that does to me." Maya looked at him, searching for signs of insincerity, but saw only honesty. "I didn't know how to find you," she admitted softly. "I only knew your name. Then I found out about this, and I thought I had to do it alone." Ethan reached out and took her hand gently but firmly. "You don't have to do it alone. Not anymore. These children, they're mine too, aren't they?" He waited, as though the entire world rested on her answer. She nodded, her eyes welling with tears. "Yes, they're ours." Ethan exhaled, as if releasing a weight he'd carried for weeks. "Then, let me take care of you. Of them. Not out of obligation, but because I want to. Because I lost you once, Maya. I don't want that to happen again." His words stirred something profound in her, but reason still anchored her. She thought of her mother, Angela, who raised her alone and refused help out of pride. "Independence is strength, Maya," she once said. But she also added, "Don't let pride stop you from accepting love." Ethan wasn't a stranger. He was the man who made her feel seen and cherished in a single night. "I don't know you, Ethan," she said, trembling. "One night doesn't make a relationship. And 4 children. This is a lot." Ethan nodded, not arguing. "I understand, but let me show you who I am. Move into my penthouse. It's safe, there's an elevator, and I've already contacted the best specialists in high-risk pregnancy. You need care, Maya, and so do the babies." She looked into his eyes and saw not just determination, but vulnerability, as if he feared she'd walk away. She remembered his father, who had been lost due to inadequate health care, and how Ethan had vowed to change the system. He wasn't just a CEO, he was a man who built an empire from pain. "All right," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But I'm keeping my home in Brooklyn, and we take it slow, step by step." Ethan smiled, a smile that lit up his whole face. "Step by step," he agreed, his hand still holding hers. "Thank you, Maya, for giving me a chance." Sunlight streamed through the glass as they stood, bathing them in golden light, like a promise. Maya didn't know that this decision would open a path filled with trials and miracles. Holding her hand, Ethan felt a new kind of strength, not from million-dollar deals, but from the woman beside him and the children they were about to welcome. Outside, Manhattan pulsed on with its usual rhythm. But at this moment, they were the center of a new universe where love had begun to take root. Morning sunlight filtered through the penthouse windows of Ethan Caldwell's home, casting a soft golden glow across the space. Maya Johnson stood in the spacious living room, her hand resting gently on her belly, where 4 tiny lives continued to grow. It had been a week since she moved in, and she was still adjusting to the luxury of it all. The glass walls overlooking Central Park, the elegant furnishings, and the calm that contrasted sharply with the bustling rhythm of Brooklyn. But what gave her peace wasn't the luxury. Ethan stood in the kitchen now, awkwardly preparing the herbal tea recommended to help ease her nausea. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Maya teased, walking over to the kitchen counter. She smiled as she watched him study the tea label as seriously as if it were a multi-million-dollar contract. Ethan looked up, a grin brightening his face. "I've convinced boardrooms to invest billions, but this is harder." He handed her the tea, the gentle scent of mint rising between them. "Try it. If not, I'll grow the mint and start over." Maya took a sip, tasting the care in every gesture. Ethan had been true to his word since their reunion at the Caldwell Women's Health Center. He'd scheduled appointments with top doctors, rearranged his work calendar to be with her, and even attended a prenatal class in Harlem that Lena had recommended. The image of Ethan in a tailored suit, fumbling with a diaper, while Harlem moms laughed around him, had made Maya chuckle and warmed her heart. But not everything was easy. Maya kept a certain emotional distance, not out of mistrust, but because she needed time to understand the man who had swept her life like a storm. She remembered her mother Angela saying, "Love isn't a rush, Maya. It's a home built brick by brick." She wanted to build that home with Ethan, but she needed to be sure it would last. They sat at the breakfast table where Ethan had laid out toast and fruit, the things she craved lately. "What's on your schedule today?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Besides making me nervous every time you walk too fast." Maya laughed, shaking her head. "I have a virtual consultation with a patient this morning and a doctor's appointment in the afternoon. And you?" "Another day, saving the global healthcare industry." Ethan shrugged, but she noticed a tension behind his smile. "Just a normal day. A board meeting about a European merger and a small issue with Victor Hayes." He paused, as if regretting bringing up that name. "Victor Hayes." Maya raised an eyebrow. She'd heard Ethan mention the man before, a bitter rival who had lost to Ethan in a significant deal 10 years ago. "What's he up to now?" Ethan sighed and set his coffee down. "He's spreading rumors about instability in Caldwell Healthcare, trying to shake European investors' confidence. I'm not worried about the business. I've dealt with worse. But..." He looked at her, his expression turning serious. "He might come after you, Maya. If he finds out about your pregnancy, he could use it to pressure me." A chill ran down Maya's spine. She remembered Harlem, where rumors could destroy a reputation in an instant. As a doctor and a community role model, she didn't want to be the center of a scandal. But she also didn't want Ethan to bear the burden alone. "We'll handle it," she said firmly. "Together." Ethan reached across the table and took her hand, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Together," he repeated. And in that moment, Maya felt a new bond between them, as if they weren't just two people brought together by fate, but a team. That afternoon, Maya attended a community meeting in Harlem, where she presented her plan to expand the free medical care program for children. The room was filled with familiar faces: Mr. Henry from the corner store, Ruby from the pregnancy support group, and dozens of parents who had once brought their kids to her clinic. As she spoke about the importance of early care, their eyes lit up with belief, and Maya felt Harlem's deep-rooted strength flowing through her. After the meeting, Ruby pulled her aside. "I heard you're carrying 4 little angels." "Maya," she said warmly, "if you need anything, just say the word. Harlem is here for you." Maya smiled, eyes glistening. She thought of her mother, who once brought her to meetings like this, teaching her that community was where joy and pain were shared alike. Back at the penthouse, Maya found Ethan reviewing a security report. He looked up, his face tense. "Victor just tried to access your medical records," he said, his voice tight. "My team blocked it, but he's digging." I'm increasing security around you, Maya. I won't let him get to you or the babies. Maya nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and reassurance. She thought of Ethan, how he'd gone from a stranger to someone willing to protect her. She remembered his father lost due to a broken system, and how Ethan had turned that pain into purpose. "Thank you," she said softly. "But you need to be careful too. He's not just targeting me." Ethan stood, walked to her, and gently touched her shoulder. "I built Caldwell Healthcare from nothing, Maya. I know how to deal with men like Victor. But you and the babies, you're why I fight." He leaned his forehead against hers, and in that moment, Maya felt her emotional walls crumble. That night they sat together on the sofa listening to jazz. A new ritual, Ethan said, reminded him of the night they met. Maya shared stories about the Harlem meeting and the community's faith in her. Ethan told her about a hospital project in Chicago, where he wanted to implement a free care model inspired by Maya's proposal. They laughed, debated, and began to build a future, one step at a time. As moonlight spilled through the windows, Maya touched her belly, feeling the baby's first gentle movements. Ethan laid his hand over hers, eyes filled with wonder. "We're going to be okay, right?" he asked, his voice low. Maya nodded, smiling. "We're going to be okay, together." But Victor Hayes was planning beyond the glass walls and the shadows of Manhattan, and a new threat was forming, ready to test their love and unity. The private clinic at the Caldwell Women's Health Center was bathed in soft light from the recessed ceiling lamps, but the air felt heavy, like a storm about to break. Maya Johnson lay on the examination bed, her hand clutching the edge of the sheet, trying to maintain the calm of a doctor, even as her heart pounded wildly. At week 30, her quadruplet pregnancy had become a high-stakes journey, weekly checkups and strict bed rest. But today, everything changed when Dr. Catherine Lee, a specialist in high-risk pregnancies, frowned at the blood pressure monitor. "Maya, your blood pressure has spiked," Dr. Lee said, her voice professional but worried. "We need to start magnesium sulfate immediately and admit you for monitoring. This could be the onset of preeclampsia." Maya nodded, her medical training taking over automatically. Preeclampsia, a dangerous complication that could lead to seizures, organ failure, or premature birth. She knew the statistics at week 30. The baby's lungs were not fully developed. They remained inside her every day, and it was a better chance at life. But as a woman and a mother-to-be, fear gripped her. She thought of her mother, Angela, who had fought through countless hardships in Harlem to raise her. "You have to be strong, Maya," she once said. And now Maya clung to that wisdom like a lifeline. "Where's Lena?" Maya asked, her voice hoarse. She needed her best friend, her constant from the sun-drenched streets of Harlem. "I've already called her," Dr. Lee replied, signaling the nurse. "And I've notified Mr. Caldwell. He's on his way." Maya nodded, but her heart clenched at the thought of Ethan. He had been by her side through every step of this pregnancy, from ultrasounds to sleepless nights filled with worry. But she didn't want him to see her like this, weak, helpless. She wanted to be the strong woman he met at the Starlight, not a patient lying in a hospital bed. Ethan Caldwell burst into the hospital room 20 minutes later, his gray suit rumpled from a rushed flight from Tokyo. He had skipped an important meeting on the European merger, something he couldn't have imagined doing just months ago. But when Dr. Lee called, nothing else mattered. He rushed to Maya's side, his blue eyes filled with worry. "Maya, what's happening?" he asked, gripping her hand, his warmth cutting through the chill in her skin. Dr. Lee gave a quick explanation. Elevated blood pressure, preeclampsia risk, and critical 48-hour monitoring. "We're doing everything to keep her and the baby safe," she assured. "But the situation is serious." Ethan nodded, but his eyes never left Maya. "Do whatever it takes. he said firmly. Money isn't an issue. If we need experts flown in from anywhere, I'll bring them. Maya gave a weak smile and squeezed his hand. Ethan, Dr. Lee is the best. You know that you hired her. She tried to inject a little humor, though her voice trembled. Trust her. He nodded, but she could feel the tension radiating through his body. They sat in silence, accompanied only by the steady beeping of the monitor. Ethan never let go of her hand, even as his phone vibrated with urgent messages from his office. Maya thought back to the night they met, when he told her about his father, who died from inadequate medical care. Ethan had built Caldwell Healthcare to make sure no one else would suffer like that, and now he was fighting to protect her and their children. Late at night, with Manhattan's lights twinkling beyond the windows, Maya woke from a restless sleep. Ethan was still seated beside the bed, sleeves rolled up, hair tousled. He was checking messages on his phone, but when he saw her awake, he immediately set it down. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. "A little better," she replied, though her head was still heavy from the medication. She looked at him, noticing the fatigue in his eyes. "You don't have to stay all night, Ethan. You've got an empire to run." He shook his head, tightening his grip on her hand. "That empire means nothing compared to you and the babies." He leaned in, his forehead touching hers. "Maya, when the doctor called, I thought I might lose you. And I realized that I love you. Not just because of the babies, but because of you, the woman who made me want to be better." His words made Maya's heart skip a beat. She remembered her mother once saying, "In Harlem, real love is when you find someone who makes you want to soar." She looked into Ethan's eyes and saw not just worry, but a profound love. "I love you too," she whispered, voice trembling. "I'm scared, Ethan. But with you here, I feel stronger." He kissed her forehead, gentle but fierce, as if willing his strength into her. "We'll get through this, Maya. Together." 3 days later, Maya's condition worsened. Her blood pressure remained unstable, and Dr. Lee decided to perform an emergency C-section at 32 weeks. In the operating room, Maya held Ethan's hand, their eyes locked amid the hum of machines and calm commands from the medical team. "If something happens," she whispered, "take care of them, Ethan." "Nothing will happen," he replied, voice steady, though his eyes glistened. "You'll be okay. The babies will be okay. I promise." Dr. Lee began the procedure, and one by one the cries of newborns rang out a symphony of life. "First baby, a girl," she announced, and Maya cried as she heard her daughter's strong cry. "Second baby, another girl." A second cry joined the first. Third, a boy. And finally, fourth baby, another boy. 4 cries merged and echoed through the operating room. In his surgical gown, Ethan looked at the babies through the incubator, glass eyes wide with awe and love. He returned to Maya's side and kissed her hand. "You did it, Maya. 4 miracles. Emma, Lila, Noah, and Finn." Maya smiled faintly, exhausted but overjoyed. She thought of Harlem, her mother, and the community that raised her. She had brought 4 lives into the world, and beside her was the man ready to build a family. Though challenges still lay ahead, she knew they would face them together. Soft light from the NICU at Caldwell Women's Health Center bathed 4 tiny incubators, where Emma, Lila, Noah, and Finn Maya Johnson and Ethan Caldwell's 4 miracles fought each day to grow stronger. 3 weeks after the emergency C-section, the babies were still fragile, each weighing just over 1 kilogram, but their steady heartbeats and faint breaths were proof of their resilience. Maya sat beside Emma's incubator, gently touching the baby's tiny hand through the glass. Despite the dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights and constant worry, she smiled. "You're so strong, Emma," she whispered, "just like your grandmother." She thought of her mother, Angela, who had braved so many hardships in Harlem to raise her. Harlem, with its noisy streets and warm-hearted people, had taught Maya that strength doesn't come only from within, but from those around you. As a mother of 4, she felt that lesson deeper than ever. Ethan walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee and a bag of pastries from Maya's favorite bakery in Harlem. He set them down on the table, then sat beside Noah's incubator, his blue eyes filled with tenderness. "This little guy's been extra feisty today," he said with a smile. "I swear he just tried to kick me through the glass." Maya chuckled, warmth spreading in her chest. For the past 3 weeks, they had been learning to be parents, under the most challenging conditions. Feedings every 3 hours, constant medical updates, and the gnawing fear that any one of the babies could face complications. Ethan, though still managing Caldwell Healthcare remotely, had spent most of his time here changing diapers, learning how to hold the babies, even singing lullabies, a hidden talent from his childhood in Queens. "Do you remember the first time you tried to change Lila's diaper?" Maya teased, eyes sparkling. "I think you used an entire roll of tape." Ethan grimaced playfully. "Let's never speak of that again. I'm a CEO, not a diaper engineer." But his smile betrayed how much he cherished those clumsy, precious moments. But not everything was peaceful. That morning, as Maya was conducting a virtual consultation for a young diabetes patient, her phone buzzed with a message from Lena. "Check the news. Your story and Ethan's just got leaked." Maya opened her laptop. The headline from the New York Times slammed into her like a freight train. "Caldwell Healthcare CEO and pediatrician, the secret of the Quadruplet family." Based on leaked medical records, the article revealed everything from the night they met to Maya's pregnancy and the birth of the Quadruplets. She felt the blood drain from her face. As a doctor, she understood the critical importance of medical privacy. As a proud daughter of Harlem, she feared how the community might react. She had been a symbol of pride, but now a story like this could turn her into gossip fodder. She looked at Ethan, who was reading messages with a tight expression. "Victor Hayes," he said, voice dark. "Our security team confirmed he's behind the leak. He's trying to distract me and derail the European merger." Maya gripped his hand, trying to stay calm. "What does he want from us, Ethan? Why target our family?" Ethan exhaled, eyes clouded with regret. 10 years ago, I bought out his father's medical company, a company cutting costs and endangering patients. Victor never forgave me. He believes I stole his legacy. Now he sees you and the babies as my weakness." Maya thought of Harlem, of families fighting to protect their honor and survival. "He's wrong," she said firmly. "We're not your weakness. We are each other's strength." That afternoon, Maya resumed her work, albeit through online consultations. She was leading a pediatric diabetes research project, and continuing her work gave her a sense of control. During a Zoom meeting, she presented her plan to expand free screening programs in Harlem. The proud looks from her colleagues gave her courage. As a doctor, she wasn't just healing patients, she was bringing hope, just as her mother once had when she shared food with neighbors during hard times. But the media pressure didn't stop. That evening, as Maya and Ethan exited the NICU, they saw a swarm of reporters outside the hospital. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand while their security team cleared a path through the crowd. "Don't worry," he whispered. "I'll handle this." Back at the penthouse, Maya sank into the sofa, instinctively placing her hand on her belly, even though the babies were now in NICU. Ethan knelt in front of her, eyes filled with resolve. "Maya, we can't hide forever. I want to hold a press conference and tell our story in our way. Not as a scandal, but a story of love and family." Maya hesitated. She thought of Harlem, of the judgmental stares that might follow. But then she remembered Ruby from the support group, who once said, "You're a warrior, Maya. Don't let anyone shame you for love." She nodded, taking Ethan's hand. "All right, but I want Harlem there." They're my family. Ethan smiled and kissed her hand. Harlem will be there, and so will I always. They sat by the window that night, watching the Manhattan skyline glitter. Maya shared a story about a little patient named Jamal, who once gave her a crayon drawing after getting better. Ethan talked about a new clinic in Chicago, inspired by Maya's ideas. They laughed. They embraced. And despite Victor's schemes and the media storm circling them, they felt stronger than ever. Maya thought of her mother, of Harlem, of the 4 angels waiting in the NICU. She placed her hand on Ethan's, feeling his warmth. "We're going to be okay, right?" she asked softly. "Absolutely," he replied with love in his voice. "Because we're a family." The press conference room at Caldwell Women's Medical Center was arranged with the precision of a military operation. Rows of chairs lined up neatly, soft lighting cast a warm glow, and a large screen behind the podium displayed images of 4 incubators in the NICU, where Emma, Lila, Noah, and Finn, the 4 little angels of Maya Johnson and Ethan Caldwell, were growing stronger every day. Maya stood behind the curtain, taking a deep breath, her hand unconsciously smoothing the dark blue dress that hugged her postpartum body. She looked in the mirror and saw a woman who was not just a doctor, but also a mother, a lover, and a source of pride for Harlem. But today, she was about to face the world. Ethan stood beside her, his gray suit exuding power, but his blue eyes focused only on her, full of love and resolve. "Are you ready?" he asked, holding her hand. The warmth of his touch eased some of the anxiety within her. Maya nodded, offering a faint smile. "I'm a doctor, Ethan. I've handled more stressful surgeries than this. But I worry about Harlem. I don't want them to think I did something shameful." Ethan squeezed her hand tighter. "Harlem will be proud of you just like I am. And we will tell this story our way, not as a scandal, but as a love story." He leaned down and kissed her forehead, and Maya felt his strength radiate into her. She remembered her mother Angela, who used to say in Harlem, "When you speak the truth, no one can hurt you." Today, she would speak her truth. The press room was packed with reporters, camera flashes popping incessantly as Ethan stepped up to the podium, pulling Maya along. The murmurs died down when he began to speak, his deep voice powerful yet warm. "4 weeks ago, I became the father of 4 miracles. Emma, Leela, Noah, and Finn. They are my children, the children of the extraordinary woman beside me, Dr. Maya Johnson." Cameras flared wildly as Maya stood tall, her gaze steady. She held Ethan's hand, feeling his unwavering support. "We met 8 months ago," she continued, her voice clear. "One fateful night led to a family we never expected. We chose to keep the pregnancy private for the health of our babies, but today we want to share our story, not because of pressure, but out of pride." She looked into the audience and saw Ruby and Mr. Henry from Harlem, sitting in the front row, their eyes sparkling with trust. The presence of her community made her stronger. She shared the journey of carrying quadruplets, the sleepless nights, the hopeful days, and how Ethan had stood by her through every trial. "Our love doesn't follow the rules," she said, smiling at Ethan. "But it gave life to 4 souls, and I have no regrets." Ethan took over, his voice emotional. "I built Caldwell Healthcare so that no one would suffer the pain my father did, a man who died due to lack of care. But Maya and our children taught me that family is the greatest reason to fight. They're not a scandal. They're my greatest joy." Reporters asked about the European merger deal, Victor Hayes, and whether Maya would continue being a doctor or become Mrs. Caldwell. Maya responded with the confidence of a Harlem physician. "I will always be Dr. Johnson and continue treating children, especially those in Harlem." As for becoming Mrs. Caldwell, she looked at Ethan, smiling. "That's a story for another day." The room erupted in applause and Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She thought of her mother and the nights in Harlem when Angela would tell stories of strong women overcoming prejudice. Today, she was one of those women. After the press conference, the public response exceeded all expectations. Social media exploded with support, calling Maya and Ethan the love story of the year. Harlem hosted a small celebration at the community center with pastries and warm hugs. Ruby embraced Maya and said, "You made us proud, girl. Harlem's always behind you." Maya wept, feeling the power of the community just as her mother had taught her. However, Ethan received a message from his security team. Victor Hayes had failed to sway the European Board of Directors, but he wasn't backing down. "He's hired lawyers to keep digging," the head of security reported, "and there are signs he's in contact with insiders at the hospital." Ethan took Maya's hand, eyes resolute. "He won't get to us," he said. "I've increased security and I'll deal with him. You focus on the kids and yourself." Maya nodded, but worry lingered in her heart. She thought of Harlem, where a single rumor could destroy a reputation. But she also thought of Ethan, how he had transformed from a distant CEO into a clumsy but devoted father, a man willing to face the world to protect her. She remembered his father who had inspired the Caldwell empire, and her mother who taught her that love was the greatest strength. They returned to the NICU that night, where the 4 babies slept peacefully in their incubators. Maya touched Finn's incubator, feeling his tiny heartbeat through the monitor. Ethan stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her. "You were amazing today," he whispered. "I've never been prouder." Maya leaned into him, smiling. "We're amazing. Together." She thought of her research project, the young patients waiting for her, and their 4 children growing stronger each day. Though Victor remained a threat, she knew they had Harlem, each other, and a love strong enough to withstand anything. Outside the window, Manhattan glittered like a promise that it would shine, no matter how hard the future may be. But in the shadows, a message arrived anonymously on Ethan's phone. "This isn't over." Victor Hayes was still waiting for his chance, and a new storm was already forming. Moonlight poured through the penthouse window of Ethan Caldwell's residence, casting a soft silver glow over the space. Maya Johnson sat in an armchair, her eyes fixed on her laptop as she reviewed the final touches of a presentation for the New York Children's Hospital Board. 4 months after Emma, Lila, Noah, and Finn's birth, Maya returned to work part-time, leading a research project on childhood diabetes in Harlem. She smiled as she read an email from a colleague. "You're an inspiration, Dr. Johnson. Harlem is proud of you." The words reminded her of her mother, Angela, who had once said, "You are Harlem's light, Maya. Never let it go out." Ethan entered carrying a tray with herbal tea and cookies, a routine he had kept up since Maya's pregnancy. He set the tray down, his blue eyes shimmering with a secret. "You're working late, Dr. Johnson," he teased, settling beside her. "The kids are sound asleep in the NICU, and their mom is saving the world." Maya chuckled and closed the laptop. "I just want to be prepared. This project could help hundreds of kids in Harlem. And," she looked at him, eyes tender, "I want our children to be proud of their mother." Ethan took her hand, their fingers locking. "They already are. And so am I." He stood up and gently pulled her to her feet. "Come with me. I have something to show you." Maya raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Another surprise." "Last time you gave me an entire medical library, Ethan. I don't know how you're going to top that." He grinned, leading her to the elevator. "Just wait and see." They ascended to the top floor of the penthouse, where Ethan asked her to close her eyes. Maya obeyed, feeling his hand gently guide her through a door. "Open your eyes," he said, his voice deep and emotional. Maya opened her eyes, and her breath caught. Before her, there was a nursery designed like a fairy tale. 4 small cribs were arranged in a crescent, each with its theme. Emma's crib was vibrant with musical patterns. Lila's was soft and lush with garden imagery. Noah's exuded strength with stylized flames, and Finn's was tranquil with shimmering rivers. The wall art combined Harlem's vibrant community murals with medical symbols, a tribute to their journey. A cozy corner with an armchair and bookshelf was set up where Maya could read to their children. Every detail radiated love and thoughtfulness. Ethan. Maya whispered, eyes welling with tears. This is perfect. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped into the center of the room, the moonlight casting his figure in a soft glow. He took out a small ring box from his pocket and slowly knelt. Maya's heart pounded, but she couldn't take her eyes off him. Maya Johnson. He began, his voice trembling, yet sincere. I've thought a lot about this proposal, about what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about how you've changed me from a CEO who only knew deals to a father and a lover. But standing here in the space we created for our children, I want to say that I love you. I love your strength, your heart, your dreams. You gave me 4 miracles, but the greatest miracle is you. He opened the box, revealing a delicate diamond ring with small stones symbolizing their 4 children. Dr. Maya Johnson, will you make me the happiest man alive by becoming my wife, my partner in raising our children, transforming healthcare, and growing old together? Tears streamed down Maya's cheeks, but a radiant smile lit her face. She thought of her mother, of the nights Angela told her love stories from Harlem, stories full of struggle, but always worth it. She thought of their journey from one fateful night to fighting for their children in the NICU. Yes, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, Ethan, I want to build everything with you, our family, our dreams, everything. Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger and rose to embrace her. They kissed, bathed in moonlight, as the baby monitor chimed softly, pulling them back to reality. Laughing, they returned to the NICU where their children slept peacefully. The next morning, Maya presented her research to the hospital board and received applause as she announced plans to open 3 free clinics in Harlem. She felt the light of her mother and her community burning bright. But the joy was interrupted when Ethan received news from his security team. Victor Hayes was under investigation for illegal activity related to leaked medical records and had temporarily pulled back. He's in legal trouble, Ethan said, though his eyes remained watchful. But I don't believe he's done. Maya nodded, her fingers tightening around the ring on her hand. She thought of Harlem, where victory never came easily, but was always worth the fight. We'll be ready, she said, her eyes resolute. For Victor, for anything. Ethan kissed her hand, smiling. That's why I love you. You're my warrior. That night, they sat in the nursery, planning their wedding and future. Maya wanted a small ceremony in Harlem with the community present. Ethan wanted the babies to attend, even if only in their cribs. They laughed, debated, and dreamed of a future where their children would grow up surrounded by the love and strength of both Harlem and Manhattan. Maya thought of Ethan's father, who had inspired him, and of her mother, who had taught her that love was the light that leads the way. As the lights of Manhattan sparkled outside, Maya leaned into Ethan, the ring on her finger glistening. They didn't know that Victor, though under investigation, had sent an anonymous message to an ally, Caldwell will pay. A new challenge was looming, but at this moment they had each other and 4 little miracles waiting to come home. The glass garden at the Harlem Community Center shimmered under the setting sun, like a painting brushed with gold and rose. White flower garlands wrapped around wooden pillars, releasing a sweet fragrance that blended with soft jazz music from a local band. Maya Johnson stood before a mirror in the preparation room, gently smoothing the fabric of her wedding dress, a simple yet elegant design with ivory silk, adorned with Harlem floral motifs, a tribute to her roots. At 31, she was not only a doctor and the mother of 4, but now also a bride, ready to step into a new chapter with Ethan Caldwell. As a bridesmaid, Lena Carter adjusted Maya's veil, her eyes sparkling. "You look like a queen, Maya," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "Your mother is smiling down from heaven. I know it." Maya nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. She thought of Angela, who had raised her on Harlem's noisy streets and taught her that love was the most incredible power. Today, she carried that spirit into her wedding day. 4 small bassinets were placed near the window where Emma, Lila, Noah, and Finn, now 5 months old, slept peacefully in tiny outfits, matching the colors of the nursery Ethan had designed. With her little curls, Emma flailed her arms as if conducting the world. Lila gently held Noah's hand, the ever-energetic baby who always made the NICU nurses laugh. Finn serenely let out a tiny yawn, completing the family picture. Maya touched Emma's bassinet and whispered, "You are Mama's miracles." Sister Ruby from the pregnancy support group entered and hugged Maya tightly. "Harlem is proud of you, girl. The whole neighborhood's here for you today." Maya smiled, feeling the strength of her community. Just as her mother had said, Harlem is the heart, Maya. It never leaves you behind. Outside, Ethan stood beneath the arch of white flowers, heart pounding despite facing countless boardrooms. His black tuxedo fit perfectly accented with a white bloom that matched Maya's dress. He looked out over the garden where friends and family from Harlem and Manhattan had gathered Mr. Henry from the corner store. Maya's hospital colleagues and Ethan's sister Olivia cradled one of the babies. He thought of his father, who had passed away in Queens, but had instilled in him the belief that family was life's true purpose. Today he wasn't just marrying Maya, he was marrying the dream they had built together. As the music shifted into a soft melody, Maya appeared at the entrance, bathed in the glow of the sunset like an angel. The crowd fell silent, and Ethan felt his breath catch. Their eyes locked, and the moment took him back to the starlight, where they'd first met 1 year ago. Maya walked down the aisle, Lena and Sister Ruby following behind. Her smile lit up the entire garden. Emma flailed her arms in the bassinet, as if cheering for her mother, drawing laughter from the guests. When Maya reached him, Ethan took her hand and whispered, "You are everything, Maya." She smiled and gripped his hand tighter, feeling their heartbeats sink. The ceremony was simple, yet profoundly moving. They exchanged vows, each word forged from the path they had walked together. "I vow to be your partner," Ethan said, voice choked through night shifts, Harlem meetings, and sleepless nights with the kids. "I vow to love you, Maya, forever." Maya looked at him, her eyes glowing. "I vow to be your partner, Ethan, in building a family and changing the world. I vow to remind you that love is the greatest strength, as Harlem has taught me. I love you." They exchanged rings. Maya's ring sparkled with 4 small stones, representing their children. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the crowd applauded, and Emma woke up, letting out a tiny cry that made everyone laugh. Ethan and Maya kissed under the sunset with their 4 little miracles as witnesses to their love. The reception occurred in the garden with Harlem cuisine, cornbread, fried chicken, and sweet treats from Mr. Henry's bakery. The band played jazz, and Maya and Ethan opened the dance floor, their bodies moving together like the night they first met. Harlem and Manhattan mingled. Sister Ruby danced joyfully, while Maya's medical colleagues chatted with Ethan's team about healthcare reforms. In a quiet moment, they sat beside their children, each cradling a baby. "Did you ever think one night could lead to all this?" Maya asked, holding Lila and gazing softly at Ethan. He chuckled, holding Noah. "I thought I was just breaking one rule. Turns out I found my destiny." Finn let out a soft coo, and they both laughed, feeling the completeness of their family. But as the evening wound down, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from security. Victor Hayes was arrested for financial fraud, but we found an anonymous message from an account tied to him. Caldwell will pay. Stay alert, sir. Ethan tightened his grip on Maya's hand but said nothing, not wanting to spoil the day. That night, Maya and Ethan stood in the garden as their children slept peacefully in their bassinets. Harlem sparkled beneath them, a reminder of her roots. I love you, Maya said, leaning into Ethan, her ring gleaming under the moonlight. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. We will, Ethan replied, kissing her. Our family is stronger than any challenge. They didn't yet know that a new threat was quietly forming. But at that moment, they had Harlem. They had their 4 miracles. And they had a love strong enough to weather any storm. Their story, born from one fateful night, had become a symphony of love, family, and hope echoing forever through the hearts of Harlem and Manhattan.